Hello, and welcome to this Robin Hood moment. The subject of public education is always a top-of-mind topic for New Yorkers. Standardized test scores, retention and graduation rates, parental choice in charter schools, and of course, the continual quest to elevate, innovate, and improve the overall quality of public education. Those are just a few of the many issues related to education that are always top of mind for our city's residents and our elected and appointed leadership. Since our founding, Robin Hood has made investments in education and all things that might support learning environments a top priority. In total, we have invested more than $500 million since 1988 on improving education in the nation's largest public school system. My name is Kevin Thompson, and I am the Managing Director of Communications at Robin Hood, and today I am pleased to welcome my colleague, Christopher Caruso, the Managing Director of our school-age grant-making portfolio, to join us for this Robin Hood moment. Chris, thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. Great to be with you this afternoon.
It's great to see you. Chris, we have a lot to talk about, a lot of ground we could cover in education, but I want to start by just asking, why does improving the quality of education and the outcomes of the New York public school system matter so much in the fight against poverty in New York City?
Thanks, Kevin. In order for New Yorkers to get ahead, they need to have a basic set of skills. They need to have a basic level of information and opportunities, and a high-quality education is the foundation for any of that. New York City, as many know, has extremely segregated schools in terms of the outcomes that kids get. We have some of the best schools in the whole country, but we also have some of the most struggling schools in the country. And unfortunately, the zip code that you're born into determines which schools you go to, and that sets kids off on a path where unequal outcomes are almost predestined. And at Robin Hood, we have an opportunity to interrupt that. We have an opportunity to make investments in the system, in organizations, and in schools so that every kid is prepared for success in the future, so that every kid has the opportunity of choice when they graduate from high school. And the second reason is that a high school diploma is predictive of future earnings. We know that students that have a high school diploma have much higher lifetime earnings compared to those that do not. At the end of the day, what we're really trying to achieve is to ensure that every student has access to a high-quality school. And what we mean by that are schools that helps kids develop purpose, a passion, and a plan. Schools that ignite curiosity and provide students with the academic, social, emotional, and career-relevant knowledge and skills so that they're prepared for post-secondary success.
Last year, the school-age portfolio here at Robin Hood invested more than $26 million in programs to support school-age children as schools worked to recover learning gaps caused by inequities and exacerbated by the pandemic. Tell us a little bit about those challenges and how Robin Hood is working with community partners to overcome them.
Sure. All students experienced an interrupted education over the past several years, but the most vulnerable learners experienced nearly a year of learning loss.
Wow.
Students of color are estimated to lose between 6 and 12 months of learning compared to 4 to 8 months of their white peers. This is a crisis that we're going to be dealing with for many years to come. The pandemic has exacerbated pre-existing disparities in education. And so Robin Hood acted quickly to work with the New York City public schools and many of our community partners to launch a number of efforts to accelerate learning, to build relationships, to strengthen mental health, and make sure our students are getting back on track and have what they need.
So it sounds like part of your strategy there was to include some sort of wraparound services for students to deal with their holistic needs in addition to just their academic.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, in order for students to learn, they need to feel well about themselves. They need to feel like they belong. They need to have a sense of self. They need to have high quality relationships. Kids remember how you make them feel, and that's necessary before they start to learn. So we invest in a number of initiatives to strengthen mental health of young people. We also support community schools across New York City because we know that schools can't do this work alone. and that it really requires families and community partners and schools to work together to create opportunities for our young people.
That's a great point. And let's just talk about those community schools just for a minute, because you pointed out earlier that we have some of the best public schools in the nation here, and that is also a true fact about the New York public school system. But while we have the best, we have many that are really struggling. And that's where the preponderance of the population actually attends class every day. These community schools, I understand we are now investing in a program that is going to reimagine 20 academically enhanced community schools. Can you talk a little bit about that program and what we mean by an enhanced community school?
Sure. Community schools is a strategy that's really gained a lot of momentum over the past 10 years in New York and around the country. There's an evidence base showing that community schools support kids to graduate high school at greater rates. It reduces chronic absenteeism and a number of other high-quality outcomes. We think that there is untapped potential in our community schools to accelerate learning and strengthen instruction. At its core, the community school strategy brings together a number of adults who can connect with young people in different ways. And so Robin Hood, in partnership with the New York City Department of Education, has focused on a set of schools to really strengthen the instructional core, build leadership capacity of principals to not only be instructional leaders, but collaborative community leaders, to introduce early grade math interventions that can be led by teachers and by community educators, so that we're really tapping the strengths and assets of the whole school community. And we're also looking to distribute leadership so that parents have a more active role in these schools. And we think that by codifying some of these additional interventions in this set of 20 schools, we could shape the strategy citywide and even nationally.
Wow, that's an audacious goal. And it sounds like a great project. Tell us a little bit about what the origin story there is. This is an incredibly different kind of model for community schools, strengthening the academic core of these schools. Your approach is unique to New York. Is that true? Or
yeah, we're trying something new here in New York. I'd like to think that New York is the epicenter of this movement around the country. We have over 400 community schools right now, and the ability to take another look at what we could do better. Robin Hood and the New York City Department of Education worked real closely on analyzing what's worked and what can be strengthened over the past couple of years. So we're excited and optimistic about these 20 schools, which just got rolling a couple months ago. The principals are all engaged in their leadership development right now, and we're looking forward to what is down the pike next year.
Excellent. Is the plan then, Chris, to keep iterating the approach so that you ultimately do reach all 400 community schools over time?
I think the lessons learned from this will influence future community schools and all community schools. Like Robin Hood, what's been core to our work over the decades we've been in existence is continually to assess our impact, right? To continually take a look at our investments, our hypotheses. Are the programs rolling out in ways that increase effectiveness and impact? And so it's not a surprise to me that we would continue to look at this and make sure that we're strengthening our work with our schools and our community partners.
Thank you. We read a lot about declining and stagnant test scores, and especially about the gross inequities in student performance for children of color. Robin Hood is partnering with Expand Ed to pioneer a new high-impact tutoring program to accelerate learning. Describe a little bit about that program and the goals of that effort and how it sort of fits into your overall strategy.
Sure. High-impact tutoring is one of the strategies that we explored and launched to accelerate learning coming out of the pandemic. And the idea behind here is building upon an evidence base, building upon the research that shows when implemented well, and that's the trick, it's got to be implemented well, high-impact tutoring can accelerate learning for students in a really effective way. So we're working with our friends at Expand Ed Schools to build the capacity of 80 schools around the city to implement those evidence-based practices. And the thing that high-impact tutoring offers is the ability to give really specific support to students in the areas where they need it, in small groups, personalized attention from a caring adult. And so it kind of accomplishes two things. One, it's providing the academic acceleration that kids need, but in a small group, they're able to form a relationship with someone who's not their teacher, someone that's not their parent. And that confidence that could instill helps set students up for success as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. This conversation wouldn't be complete if I didn't ask these last two questions. And the first is certainly about charters. The legislature has just lifted the limit on the number of charter schools in the state or altered it in some way. If you could explain a little bit about what the legislature did do, how that's going to impact the number of charter schools in the city of New York. Robin Hood's had a long history with charter schools. We've helped launch in some way or another 177 different schools across all 5 boroughs.
Yeah, the recently passed New York State budget allowed for provision of additional charter schools to open up in New York City. As you mentioned, Robin Hood has been a supporter of charter schools for a number of years, in part because we know that neighborhood schools aren't always the parents' best option. And parents have chosen and voted with their feet and are looking for different options for their young people. They're looking for different choices. When we think about affluent families and having the ability to assess their local options and making choices, that right should extend to parents living in poverty as well. We applaud the legislature and the governor for this and look forward to working with our partners in the charter sector.
Chris, thank you so much. What's next for Robin Hood on the education front? I mean, you have jumped into a whole area where you're reimagining community schools. You've been fighting the good fight on wraparound services in the wake of the pandemic. You have a new high-impact tutoring program that you're launching, that the portfolio is launching, I should say. What is next for us?
Yeah, the good news is that there's no shortage of good ideas around improving education in New York City. And, you know, we mentioned earlier that New York City has some of the strongest schools in the country. We also have some of the strongest nonprofit organizations, and we're really fortunate to be working with the best of the best that inform our practice. Some of the things I'm really excited about coming down the road are ways that we can continue to support educators. One of the statistics that's troublesome in New York City is that only 40% of teachers are teachers of color when we have a student body who's 80% students of color. And so we're looking forward to working with partners on ways that we could remedy that. Pipeline for more people to come into the profession, supporting schools to be more supportive of teachers of color so we're able to retain a really high quality workforce. Another thing that we're really excited about is supporting students to be ready for college and career. Robin Hood has a long history of supporting college access and persistence for low-income New Yorkers. And we're also wanting to make sure that students have the skills and relationships so they're prepared to enter the workforce. So we've got some great projects going on where kids are participating in internships and apprenticeships and earning wages while they're in school to get that on-the-ground experience so that they are prepared for the workforce. And we're excited to do more of that in the coming years.
That's really exciting. And that's one of the things I love about working at Robin Hood. So many of our issues are interrelated and interdependent on one another. Sure. And so the solutions are organic across all of our portfolios. That's such a wonderful thing to hear. Chris, that's all the time we have today. I really appreciate you taking the Robin Hood moment with us. Thank you all for listening. I'm Kevin Thompson. Please join us again to learn more information about Robin Hood news, interviews, or stories of our impact. Visit us at robinhood.org.